Hey everyone, Babs Hockey here with the Player Coach Podcast. Here, I'll give you multiple perspectives from a player and a coach so you can see the game from multiple viewpoints. And I'll give you the latest in hockey IQ development so you can make better decisions and take your game to that next level. Today on the podcast, I want to talk about aggression compete equals opportunity. Now, there's a lot of stir out there with players and coaches talking about maybe it's confidence that equals opportunity. Maybe it's just general luck. Maybe it's who you know. And all those potentially play a factor. But one that I've noticed that consistently creates opportunity long-term for players is aggression and compete. This is something that regardless of your skill set, who you are, small, big, you have the ability to dictate whether or not you can compete and be aggressive. That's on you. And one thing that people don't know about is, or might not know about, is aggression and compete really are the key emotional triggers to get you into that flow and high focus state. That's really the first thing I want to discuss is when you access this high aggression, high compete level, it really engages you. It pulls you into the moment. It really puts you in a present mindset. And that's what allows you to really use the skills that you have, play with confidence, play with a high level of energy. And that's how you can really get into that flow state that everyone talks about. There's times where you'll be in this low energy zone where you just can't get yourself up. And it's really like a pendulum. Finding that flow state is very difficult at times. And aggression and compete are that key triggers to really get you in there. And so what I want to talk about are the two different ways that you can really get yourself fine-tune your game so that you can get into that state. And the first one, like I talked about, if the pendulum's too low, say your energy levels are down, or you're not feeling that confident, or you're not feeling that into the game. And with a long season, depending on how tired you are, things are going on, it's sometimes difficult to get up for these games. And so I talk about a very simple way, and in the last podcast, I brought up Jamie Benn. I seem to be bringing him up a lot, but he's just an unbelievable two-way player. And Braden Point, and again, is a great example to bring someone else up who does the exact same thing. All their skill, everything they have, one way they get into games, and you see this specifically in playoffs, is going in and finishing your checks, or going into battles and competing as hard as you possibly can. You're going to find when you do this, it's an easy way to access this flow present mindset, because nothing else matters. When you go in there, you make that big check, you go in there, finish your check, you go in there competing hard, you're getting hit. It just like knocks you into that game and knocks you into that moment. It's hard to be thinking of anything else other than that moment when you go in there and engage. And that's what aggression and compete does. It really gets you engaged into the moment. And this is a way that you can consciously, deliberately get yourself into that flow state. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen right away. And obviously there's times when you're completely exhausted and doing this won't do anything. Like there is a threshold, of course. There's a level, there's a threshold if you're just completely gassed, it's not going to work. I'm talking about majority of the time when you're just tired, not engaged in the game, you're a little bit worn out, and you just need to get the blood flowing, going in, finishing your check, competing hard on battles, battling with opponents one-on-one, in a group, in the corner. That's going to get you engaged. That's going to get your level of awareness up, and that's through that aggression and compete. When you do that, you're going to be able to really spike up that adrenaline, really get going in the game, and now you're going to be much more dialed in. You see players do this all the time. It's actually a veteran when I was a junior hockey player. That was one thing he told me. I was a young guy with a bunch of other skilled players, and it wasn't going for us. It just wasn't working. And one thing he told us was, if you want to get in the game, you want to get engaged, just go in and finish your checks. Just go in early on, get in there, get dirty. You're going to see what happens. You're going to really start to see that you're going to be engaged in the game, and pucks will start turning around. It's not going to happen right away every time, but it's going to get you started in that right mindset. And you'll find yourself in that high focused, high optimal state so that you can really compete at your best. And so the next thing I want to talk about is this misconception that high risk leads to flow. And so I've already talked about how aggression really is the way to lead to that flow, high optimal state. But sometimes players will think that they need to make a high risk play, or, oh, I'm not into the game right now, so let me go try a toe drag, or let me just blindly throw this puck out and hope it goes in. And obviously that does happen sometimes. Sometimes you see players will just throw a whole play and it goes in, or it works, it connects, and then you start feeling confident and you're into the game. But that's a very high risk way to really deliberately instigate flow. It puts yourself in a bad position because it's not the most consistent or the highest probable way to get yourself in that high focus state. It's very high risk, and what ends up happening is you end up being a defensive liability. In long term, that's not going to work out as you move up to those top levels. You're moving up throughout the ranks. That's not the right way to go about it. And again, if you feel that's the way to do it, go ahead. But I've seen many players go down that road, and it just leads to the puck being in the back of your net, or you sitting on the pine. And so it's really important to understand this misconception. It's not high risk that leads to this flow state. It does work once in a while, but it's not consistent enough as aggression and compete. Aggression and compete are what you're going to be able to use to really get yourself into that optimal mindset, that high focused state of mind, that flow state, so that you can play at your best. And now, the last thing I want to address is sometimes that teeter-totter can move a little too high. It can tip over the top where your aggression and compete just go a little too high. You go out of control, and you see this more so with younger players, but even at the NHL level, you see players just get out of control, and this will naturally happen once in a while. If it's happening consistently, that means you're hitting above that aggression and compete level. You're going over the top. You need to find that balance. And so when you get over there, it's very difficult to play in control, and you play out of control really, and out of this flow and high focus state. And so one technique that I found that really helps is using breathing. If you're ever interested in some more breathing techniques, look up James Nestor and Andrew Huberman. These are two guys that are really experts in the field of using breathing to change the state of mind of an individual. And I'm not saying like your mindset, it's your state of mind. Those are more deliberate terms, and there's a better definitive definition for those states. And so one thing that James Nestor talked about was nasal breathing, and using the 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out through your nose, nice and slow, not a deep breath, but you're going 6 seconds in and then 6 seconds out. And that's going to allow you to really calm yourself down. Andrew Huberman, another one, if you want to try a different breathing technique, was the 2 breaths in through your nose and then one long one out of your mouth. And he talked about this one. I really understood it when he said it was like when you're really upset and fired up, you tend to start doing these double breaths through your nose where you're like, and you start doing that, and that's your body's way of trying to calm itself down. And so these are 2 breathing techniques you can use to really bring down that aggression and compete, that high emotional state of mind, and bring it down and level yourself out, really bring you down to a more balanced state. I'm not saying players are going to completely snap sometimes. This will happen. This is about minimizing this from happening, really avoiding constantly smashing your stick across the boards, yelling at your teammates, getting tossed out of games for stupid penalties or dumb hits. And so we really want to use breathing, another deliberate, conscious way to bring it down that teeter-totter into that sweet spot, into that high-focused, optimal state of mind. So there you have it. The keys here: aggression and compete lead to opportunity. It allows you to get into this optimal state of mind, high-focused flow state. When you're too low, you can use finishing your checks, going into corners, battling and competing to really get your level up, really get that state of mind into that sweet spot. And whenever you're over the top aggressive, really just out of control, you see like you're just seeing red, use your breathing. Use this deliberate breathing of 6 seconds in and out through your nose, or 2 breaths in through your nose and 1 out, to really calm yourself down and bring yourself down. And so again, remember to check out James Nestor or Andrew Huberman at Huberman Labs. They got some great insightful insights on how to really consciously bring about change to the brain using your breathing, using several different techniques. So also, whenever you're ready to take your game and your IQ to the next level, I have the IQ game course available with the advanced update in there. I have an additional 40 videos that really break down vision, head position, and going through some different attacking and defensive tactics so that you can regain puck possession, maintain it longer, and create more offense. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for some more insightful podcasts to take your game to the next level.